So guys, I'm up here at a pristine backcountry lake, and I actually had the opportunity to backpack on a multi-day backpacking trip this entire trail system through the Wind River Range, which is some of the most rugged and beautiful terrain I've ever seen in my life. And when I was considering what would be the midweight survival knife that I'm going to take with me, that if the crap hits the fan out here in the middle of nowhere, no cell service, miles from civilization, and we got, I mean, this is bear country. I mean, what are we gonna do? You know, what would be that survival knife? Well, out of all the blades I have with me currently, I decided to take the Tops Knives Longhorn Bowie for that adventure. And I have used this now quite a bit. Really cool blade, really cool. Has some amazing features to it. Does have a few things that you have to consider when you are looking at mid-weight survival knives. And this is kind of on the larger end of mid-weight survival knives, but it is absolutely in that genre. We're going to do competitive options today, point out the pros, point out maybe a few of the drawbacks so that you guys can decide if you were hiking through rugged terrain and you need a mid-weight survival knife, is this the right tool? Is there another tool that would be better suited? That's what I hope to answer in this video. So let's jump to it. Let's see what this tool has going on and whether or not it should be in your rotation. Well, we made it back to the RV, hanging out with the family at the campsite. So if you hear squealing or, you know, screaming or whatever, that might be what you're hearing, the kids playing around. But I want to walk through the overall design with you, talk about this recurve. Some people get really intimidated by recurves or just don't like them. You know, kookaries have been in existence for centuries, and I don't think we in the 21st century need to be intimidated by a very mild recurve like this or kookaries or any other type. I've never balked at a recurve, and I own many, and it's just a trick to know how to resharpen them, maintain them, hone them, those type of things. So first, I'll jump into specs real quick for you. 6.75 inches overall, about 6 inches actual cutting edge. You are looking at a 1/4 inch thick that basically holds it all the way to about right here near the tip, and then that's still got a pretty robust tip there that will pierce and stab very nicely. I mean, don't be an idiot and, you know, like crank side to side, you know, but the straight on pierce, man, it's very tough, and I was not nervous about, you know, damaging the tool in that way. 1095 high carbon steel. This has their river wash, you know, acid wash coating on it. I love it. And it's holding up well. I mean, and this has seen a bunch of abuse. You are going to see a little bit of staining, you know, just because it's 1095, you know, on the edge. I've been in more humid environments now that we're traveling all the time, so it's good to kind of just see what 1095 does in that regard. And then you're going to be looking at about 18 ounces overall weight for the tool. So it's definitely a beefy boy, but it has a full flat grind, which really helps with the overall performance for a midweight survival knife, in my opinion. It feels very balanced. Just to kind of show you where the balance point is, I was very happy with that. Let's see, it's like right there. Yep, right there at the guard. So it feels really good, and if you choke up, then, I mean, you're right there in control with the tool. And what I found was on the carving side, because of the 1/4 inch thick, I was like, oh man, is this going to kind of be, you know, fat and, you know, not really good edge geometry behind the relief edge, and it's going to be, you know, this big, you know, sure, it can baton and chop, but it's not going to carve well. This actually, because Tops does a really good job with their edge geometry, it just really, really carved well. I mean, feather sticks were a breeze. Notching, because of the big belly up front, was very easy for me to do and put my thumb on the back spine, which is a rounded back spine, not 90 degrees. And I was easily able to do notches. You can do spear points like all day long. It's very, very fun to sit there and carve with this tool, even though it's pretty big and pretty heavy. It's just the balance, and because they decided to go full flat instead of saber on this particular model, it accelerates that cut, matching the recurve. And that recurve, that's the benefit to it. It really helped with carving, but it also is going to accelerate your cuts through paracord, through seatbelt, through those type of things, webbing, you know, that type of stuff. That's the benefit to a recurve, is it accelerates your cut, making it faster and easier to go through the material, putting less meaning that you don't have to put as much pressure on the tool. Now, when it comes to batoning, a saber grind usually performs better. I like and prefer saber grinds as they kind of act more like a wedge, in my opinion. But because of the 1/4 inch thickness, it will easily baton just like a saber ground 3/16 inch blade. So for the size of a mid-weight survival knife like this is, it can baton very easily anything that you would be able to span without any sort of issue. There's no clip on the top, so it's not going to damage your batoning stick or anything else like that. So I was very pleased with batoning and would do anything that I would expect out of a mid-weight survival knife without any issue. Then finally onto the chopping aspect. Now, obviously knives are not the first choice when chopping, but you know, whether this is your one tool option, that's probably why you're going to buy this, is it's kind of your one tool option. And what if you had to build a shelter, you got stuck out there, we were on a backpacking trip, you know, what if we had to do that, build a fire, you know, those type of things. And because of the added weight, the added size overall, it's going to out chop a lot of other mid-weight survival knives kind of in the same price and size range because of that. And that kind of recurve gives you a little bit more belly than other knives would, and therefore makes it a breeze to delimb and get chopping done if you have to. So for a mid-weight survival knife, this will outperform most others on the market because it's on the heavier and larger size or side of those. So those are things to consider, but I want to hit with you now real quick, resharpening. How do you resharpen a recurve? Why not be, you know, why you don't need to be intimidated by it. And so to begin, the narrower your sharpening pad, stone, rod is, the easier it will be. Belt sharpeners work great as well. You know, so that would be probably the fastest, easiest way to resharpen a recurve, all the way from a kukri, you know, all the way down to what we have here, which is a pretty mild recurve. But a lot of people, you know, you might be buying this and you're like, well, yeah, but I need to be able to field sharpen it. How do I field sharpen my pocket knives and fixed blades that have recurves, and I feel like a little intimidated by that? Well, the easiest way is to just keep it honed with a ceramic rod. And you can see here, because of the rod, and I'm never not in contact with the edge, the steel. And so that is the easiest way. You know, touch it up before you head out. As soon as you're done, touch it up. And short of you really, you know, being stupid and, you know, damaging it in some way, hitting a rock by mistake, dropping it, which does happen, you know, you're not going to run into any issues. And this is a great option. This is the WorkSharp pocket sharpener, I believe. The field sharpener is an overall better option because it has more features and it's a little bit bigger, but it has a wider diamond pad, and so it's a little trickier, and sometimes I miss contact with it. Because this is about a 1/2 inch thick diamond pad, it works perfectly. Let's say I did really dull out this first, you know, 3 inches here, or I dropped it or hit a rock, you know, just by mistake or whatever, right? So this easily, I can just touch right there and just follow the recurve, and it's never not in contact with the diamond pad and the diamond stone, you know. So I'm just doing the exact same thing, just following the recurve, and you just kind of do a very mild S along with the blade, and you're good to go. And you can even see it as it scuffs the original mirror finish, because this is obviously not, you know, high polish. That's what the ceramic and, you know, strops would be for. But that is what you can do. So the narrower, either the diamond rod, you can get diamond rods, you can get ceramic rods, or you can get just narrow, you know, diamond stones, easily can tune up a recurve without any issue, and no reason to be intimidated by that type of design. All right, let's go ahead and hit this handle, because this was a concerning point to me when you just see the photos, maybe if you see somebody handling it, is the exposed outer tang that goes above and is not flush to the handle scales. I was like, is that going to create hot spots? Is that going to be a problem? You just don't know until you get it in your hand. But what I've discovered is that I have zero issue with it. I was wondering, is this going to like bite? Is it going to like vibrate when I chop? But zero issues. They radiused the spine very nicely, even though it is not even 1/8, I would say maybe 0.1 above on either side, maybe even less than that, you know, cut in all the way around. There's never a point where it's abrasive to my hand. I never was like, oh gosh, I can feel the spine. I don't even notice that the spine is there. It's very large size hands, you guys know. It's got some really good radiusing as well, a little bit of valleys. Now you can get this with the Rocky Mountain tread. So for those of you who like that, awesome. I actually prefer the plain, so that's what I went with. So it does have just a little bit of those hills and valleys, but full. It's a nice big full handle. You can back up and that actually kind of caresses your finger right there, your pinky, when you are doing some chops, and then you got that really good front choil. Now this thing is so sharp, and this position right here, I did nick myself the very first day I used it right there, so I did take my knife and just dull that out. So I mean, they've sharpened that all the way to that point, and it's great. That's not a diss, I mean, it just bit me. So I took my own little sharpener and just kind of rounded that off just a hair right there, but the choil is nice and large to then grab, and now I have full control over that knife. And then you do have a couple hits of very blocky, gentle jimping. This is the type of jimping that I like. If my knife is going to have jimping, you don't even know it's there when you're doing your hammer grip, choked up or backed up. It's totally fine, nice, rounded, smooth edges. That's the type of jimping that I like to see. So ergonomically, even though it's different, totally works and fills out your hand real nicely. Not going to create any hot spots. Very comfortable with that good front choil to choke up, but then giving you a lot of different grips for different uses depending on what you need to do. All right, guys, you know I have to do it. We got to talk about the sheath real quick. Now, it comes standard right now, currently, as I'm making this video, with a nylon sheath, which is Garbaggio. The knife deserves a super epic leather sheath, in my opinion. This blade has been really kicking butt for me, and a sweet leather sheath. Tops has some of the best production leather sheaths I've seen. I think would be amazing, so hopefully we'll see that at some point in the near future. But as it stands right now, you would probably have to upgrade if you're really going to use this a lot to either Kydex or your own custom leather. AZ Welke, and I'll have a link below, would be my recommendation to go get a Kydex sheath done. He does amazing work, has done so many sheaths for me over the years, and so I would look into that if you are going to go Kydex and then leather. You know, there are some options out there. All right, folks, let's go ahead and jump right into pricing, competitive options, and some theory. Where does this design maybe make sense over bigger blades or smaller blades, and just help you make a wise decision? Now, the cheapest I found this is $140 over on Smoky Mountain Knife Works. I've seen it between that and like $160, and it just fluctuates in there depending on the distributor and, you know, availability. So we'll have a ton of links for you guys below. I do appreciate it if you use those hyperlinks if the Longhorn Bowie makes sense for you, or some of the other designs I'm about to run in. Always appreciate it that you guys support the channel through those hyperlinks. Now, on top of that, I know that it's kind of tricky to find a lot of tops knives right now. So they're working as hard as they can and still keeping the, you know, the quality control up and all that. And it was awesome to go through their factory and you know, just see the process from beginning to end. It was just super cool. So if you are having some tricky, you know, difficulty finding it, doesn't mean that it's discontinued. It just means that, you know, you might have to wait, put it on a wish list if you are having a hard time finding it in stock. Or go directly over to the Tops website and, you know, like order it from them. Now, with that, 140 to 160, that's very reasonable for what you're getting in, you know, materials, USA made, all that stuff. Now, the options I'm about to roll in here, some of them have better sheaths. That's really where you're going to have to decide for yourself value to, you know, performance. So, one option that I got to run in when we're talking midweight survival knives here is the SE6, right? Here it is, bad boy, love this blade. Comes with a polymer sheath, so that would be an upgrade over what you get with the Longhorn Bowie. Now, the SE6 is obviously smaller. You can just see it in weight, in thickness, and in overall size. It's just a more compact blade. Sometimes that makes sense. You know, if you want just enough to get it done, that's why the SE6 has such a reputation. And it's going to be a little bit cheaper. It's going to be like 130 to maybe 135 to 145 on average is what I've seen the SE6 go for. But the SE6 is outclassed in every way from the Longhorn Bowie. Now, just for some fun, we do have the Tops US Combat knife. Just wanted to show that, roll that in there. Similar in sizing, but it's even got a little bit more reach. Definitely more of a combat knife, and maybe that's what you're looking for. Now, it normally does come with the nylon, but the I think it's a pig sticker sheath fits it perfectly, and that is cherry, man. That is a sick setup right there. I would love to see that style on the Longhorn Bowie. It deserves it. And that would be right around the same pricing, 150, 160 bucks on average. Now, I did want to run in, just for more discussional points, one of the most classic Bowie knives ever is the Buck 119 Special. Now, this is their Pro Series. with micarta handles and S35 VN. It's going to be about 190 bucks. So more expensive, more premium steel, but you can see it's dwarfed by the Longhorn Bowie. And it has a stick tang that has always performed well for me, but it has a lot of handle portions and joints, you know, together. And though the buck with the hollow grind and the thinner stock and lighter weight is going to be a lot more precise, nimble, you know, are obviously a better carver in those tasks, it's by no means going to be as brute strength as a Longhorn Bowie would be. You know, it's not going to delimb, it's not going to chop, it's not going to baton, it's not going to do any of those things anywhere near or as reliably as something like this full tang with the handle scales. And I considered for a moment when I did my backpacking trip this knife, the buck, and I was just like, no, if I'm going to take a fixed blade, I want it to have not as many joints, and I wanted that full tang exposed tang as a level of reliability in the backcountry if I had to call on my knife. So that's just something to consider when you are purchasing your blades. What are you using it for? How are you going to use it? And what is the environment? And do you need something that's bigger and stronger and more brute? Do you need something that's thinner and slicier? Then there are options out there for that as well. All right, guys, so in conclusion, my thoughts on this: if you are into midweight survival knives, so now if you're not into midweight survival knives, don't go buy this knife. You're not going to like it. It is exactly what that is. It is everything. When you put everything you want in a midweight survival knife into a blender, boom, this is something that you would absolutely fall in love with, and it's on the bigger, more robust end of those type of knives, which I really like. Thank you so much for coming over today, checking out the video. I invite you to leave a comment below. Love to hear your guys' thoughts, especially those of you that own the Longhorn. What's been your experience with it, as well as those of you that maybe have a question that I missed. Throw a comment below. I invite you to subscribe if you're not yet a subscriber. Throwing up content like this every single week. You can check us out on social media, check out the other video popping up, and until next time, always remember, stay equipped, stay prepared, and we'll see you in places like this.